When the season began, Texas and Texas A&M was expected to be one of the more exciting games in college football this year. Now, it maybe doesn't have quite the same excitement heading into this week as it would have if Texas A&M won last week, but this is still a huge game that still has playoff implications. Texas is a team that comes in at 10-1. They have been a solid team for most of the year. Obviously, the one loss against Georgia at home was not very good, but this is still a really good football team. Texas A&M kind of wishes they were 9-2, but you choked away a game against Auburn on the road, a game in which you probably should have run. Honestly, you should have won. You probably shouldn't have run speed option on third down late in the fourth quarter. I don't know why that's in your arsenal. I mean, that's is what it is, but this is still a huge game. This is a rivalry game that we haven't had in quite some time, and two teams that I think, despite the absence of this game, know what's at stake. They understand the gravity of the situation. They understand the importance of winning this football game. And I don't think that you're going to see any love lost between, you're going to see a really competitive, fiery battle between two teams that understand that they are still rivals, despite the fact that they haven't played against each other. Now, when you look at these two teams, you have two offenses that can put up points in a hurry. You also have two defenses that are full of talent everywhere. And that's really exciting for both sides. That being said, you're going to have to figure out how to win this football game. And even though you have that explosive talent offensively, this might be a gritty win for either side. It might not be the barn burn that maybe people are expecting because of how talented these defenses are. Now, the biggest questions for both teams is for Texas, it's all going to circle around what the quarterback position can do. And granted, this is going to be a question for the remainder of the season. Quinn Ewers, as long as he can stay healthy, which as I'm recording this now, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Quinn Ewers as he is, undergoing an MRI. I'll just say this: when Quinn Ewers is going under, for an MRI on his ankle, which is either ankle is important for his ability to throw the football. Then you obviously turn to what is Arch Manning going to do? Because Texas losing probably doesn't knock them out of the playoff, but I don't know what that means if Quinn Ewers is out because I don't know. I don't think we have a full picture of what Arch Manning looks like. I don't think we understand fully what he's capable of doing or not capable of doing. And that's a big question right now. It's going to be a big question that Texas has to answer. And it's probably an inopportune time to have that happen. But also, this is a Texas team that has been questioned because their strength of schedule is not looking good as the season has progressed. Their wins are not as impressive and it's a team that still very much expects to be in the SEC championship game and expects to be in the college football playoff and expects to compete for a national championship. So the quarterback play is going to be a big question. So can Quinn Ewers shine? Can Arch Manning shine? To whoever it is, are they capable of doing that? They need a big time performance from either one of those, both of them, whoever it is. The question for Texas A&M is will they play with a purpose after last week or is it going to be desperation? This is a team that's still very much in the playoff picture. They very much can still get in there, which is weird to say with three losses, but at this point with how the season is going, I think a three-loss team is probably going to get in. I don't want that to happen, but with how the committee views this, it's more on the committee. Because honestly, if it was up to me and you had three losses and you had when you look at everyone else and what they're capable of doing or their record and what they've done, three loss teams shouldn't get in. However, Texas A&M still is able to do that. So how do you move on from a really bad loss against Auburn, a game that you shouldn't have been in, that you shouldn't have been in that situation? How do you move on? Do you play with a purpose and flush it and realize that we can still beat Texas? We still hold the cards for our future? Or are you just going to play with desperation and think, oh, well, we can't lose this one. We can't afford to lose this. Because then you're for sure out. That's a big question for this team. Also, just basically, how do you bounce back from a tough loss? That's going to be a big question. Now, the matchup to watch probably dictates the game, I think, honestly. I think the outcome. Texas offensive line versus Texas A&M's defensive line. Texas offensive line is full of talent that will play at the next level. The nice thing for Texas A&M is their defensive line pretty much boasts the exact same thing. There is going to be a lot of really talented players going at it, and it's going to be really fun to see how this all shakes out. Texas at a 5.5 point favorite as we are playing right now, and it's going to be fun to see how this game shakes out. There's a lot of questions going into it, and there's a lot of things that will be interesting to watch. The impact players for this game obviously will be interesting as well. Texas A&M has plenty of them. Marcel Reed is going to need to have a big game. That is going to be a big thing for Texas A&M. If you see a big performance from him, Texas A&M has a chance to win this football game. If he struggles and isn't in a good zone, in a good rhythm, then maybe Texas A&M has more struggles than they originally anticipate. But he is an exciting player ever since they went to him full time. This offense has just looked different and a very exciting group to watch. Now, the running back position has been kind of a a trio of people playing it, but Amari Daniels obviously has been the go-to guy. Last week, Le'Veon Moss at times was the go-to guy this year, but injuries have just ruined depth at this position, a position that was really good, and they've they've managed pretty well. I think that they've done really well to find that, hey, it's the next guy up, next man up mentality, and they've just figured out ways to be competitive, and that's really exciting if you're Texas A&M. The wide receiver position, kind of the same thing. You lost some talent after last year, and you're returning a good amount. Jade Walker was looking really good against Auburn, so maybe he can keep that momentum going against Texas. That's going to be a big thing to keep an eye on. Now, the defense obviously plays a huge role, and there's a lot that Texas A&M's defense can do against Texas offense. Nick Scorton has been phenomenal, a great addition from the transfer portal. Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. There's a number of guys that have looked really good for Texas A&M. And it'll be fun to see how they compete against Texas because this group has just as much talent as the Longhorns do, which means that we're in store for a really exciting battle. Will Lee is going to have his hands full. Texas has a number of explosive weapons on the in the passing attack at wide receiver. That's going to mean that they're in for a long night, but also with the amount of talent you have, it means you're ready for that long night. It's going to be difficult to stay disciplined to play against this talent, but again, Texas A&M has the ability to do that. Now, the impact players for Texas, everything starts with hopefully Quinn Ewers. We'll see. We will see what happens. If not, it's Arch Manning. If whoever it is, at the time I'm recording this, we don't really know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the wide receivers are going to play a huge role there. The rushing attack also plays a huge role. So whether it's Blue, whether it's Trey Wisner, those guys need to get the ball on the ground and get that going. Be physical and open up the offense. Now Gunnar Helm is leading the team in receiving, but when you look at Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, you have plenty of talent, plenty of weapons for this Texas offense. You just have to find that rhythm, find that momentum early. And whether it's Ewers or Manning, you have to find ways to get into a rhythm and be consistent. Now, the defense also has to do that. And it's maybe not the same challenge, but it's still a challenge. Anthony Hill Jr. has been phenomenal this year. He has to figure out a way with the rest of his teammates, obviously, to slow down Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed is electric with the football in his hands, and they have to find ways to make him uncomfortable. And so far, Texas has done a really good job of that in some games, and this is where they need it the most. Their playoff hopes are on the line here in terms of how much confidence you have for this team when they actually do get to the playoff. And it's going to be interesting to see how they step up. This is going to be a really, really fun game. I don't think that we should have any concerns about either side. I think that there is plenty on the table. There are plenty of stakes, plenty on the line for this game. And it's going to be really fun to see this rivalry game renewed and see how these players play against each other, as well as which team takes the opportunity to win and keep their future hopes alive and see who is going to come away with what should be one of the most exciting games of this weekend.